Tommyinnit has had a very bad year.
This year for me wasn't... I'm really anxious and depressed. You might have noticed this year I've been a little more chill, feeling a bit more depressing. It's maybe because I've been a bit depressed. I've been miserable, you know?
You've had an awful year.
Yeah, and
terrible
if
year.
we really recounted everything that's happened, 2024 has not been the year of Tommyinnit.
If you don't know Tommy, he's most well known as a Minecraft YouTuber and streamer who was part of the wildly popular Dream SMP. But as his life and career have evolved, he's running into some issues that we all face, and some that are unique to him. Let's listen to Tommy and see if I can provide a little advice or perspective as a 40-something who has been there.
This video is in 4 parts. What happened, how I've been feeling, how I got through it, and how I can get you through it too, because I've got the skills now that I should really be... Okay, let's begin with part 1. What happened? Otherwise known as, oh no. I call it the Big 6. Number 1, I had testicular surgery. That feels like a long time ago, but it really wasn't. My balls twisted and they tried to get me, and they nearly won.
So this sucks, but I'm hoping enough time has passed that we can now appreciate the humor in it, because this is hysterical. I'm imagining Tommy hosting a jiu-jitsu match in his pants. That said, Tommy is in the UK, so at least he didn't have the healthcare issues we Americans deal with.
I wanna dip my balls in it!
Number 2, turns out I have 5 friends. Everyone else wasn't great. Didn't love discovering that days after my balls were surgically ripped open.
This is kind of normal as we move into our adult lives. As each person develops their own priorities and begins to head in their own direction, friendships will naturally fall by the wayside. And it does hurt when you stop to think about it, but we can really only properly nurture so many relationships. Cherish the friends you have and commit to giving them the attention they deserve. It's also important to remember that your closest circle of friends may total 5, but there are other friendships that may be more distant but still matter. It's important to appreciate those as well.
Number 3, I turned 20, and this gave me a bit of an identity crisis. How can I be the internet kid if I'm not a kid at all anymore?
Totally normal, but I'll get into specifics later.
Number 4, my family fell apart while I was performing a tour about my family. Let me tell you now, did not love role-playing Jack Manifold as my father every single night and watching a happy montage of my family. Well, to put it lightly, wasn't so happy anymore.
A family breakup is hard. I too was older when my family dissolved, and things have been difficult ever since. I don't have to perform a show that felt like a lie, but I am reminded of Howard Stern's divorce from his first wife. Stern had written a book that was turned into a film called Private Parts. In it, he tells the story of his career, but it is truly a love letter to his wife who stood by him as he fought so hard to achieve success as a broadcaster. The film was released in 1997 with he and his wife separating in late 1999. Stern was making the film while his marriage was falling apart. It made Private Parts feel like a lie, but it wasn't. The story simply wasn't true any longer.
Private Parts was the truth, I mean.
That's what I thought. I mean...
Well, it was.
It wasn't made up.
It wasn't made up. It's true.
Is it a real loss if you have that with somebody, even if it's only for a little while?
We have so many great years and such great kids between us that it's not a, in many ways it's a failure, but I don't know, in a lot of ways...
You can't rack up the whole thing is a failure.
Right.
You got to take it year by year.
We had great years of happiness.
But their history and their love was real. The divorce of one's parents isn't something one gets over immediately. Like many things, it is a process. Growing up within a 2-parent household feels like something that was always true and will always remain. Losing this feels like losing the foundation of your entire life. It takes a grieving period and time to adjust to the new reality of one's relationship with each parent.
Wouldn't it be great if all videos were like this? I saw the bed where Technoblade died, and it made me worry about dying as well. Turns out, I'm gonna.
Welcome to understanding your own mortality. It can be a drag and lead someone to becoming nihilistic, but it can also be freeing. Once you truly, in your heart, realize that your time is limited, you begin to appreciate the little things.
Because we do not know when we will die, we get to think of life as an inexhaustible well. And yet everything happens only a certain number of times, and a very small number, really. How many more times will you remember a certain afternoon of your childhood? An afternoon that is so deeply a part of your being that you can't even conceive of your life without it. Perhaps 4 or 5 times more, perhaps not even that. How many more times will you watch the full moon rise? Perhaps 20. And yet it all seems limitless.
It feels unfair and unjust when someone dies young. It shouldn't happen, but it does. Technoblade should still be with us, sharing his brilliant sense of humor with the world.
Lastly, Molly and I broke up. It was impressively mutual, but it wasn't epic. It's annoying, isn't it? Because it's so much easier when one of you is the bad guy. It would be like, oh, I hate her, or she could be like, oh, I hate him. But no, we both knew it was the right thing to do.
Actually, it's great that you had an amicable breakup. Otherwise, you might be canceled right now. But seriously, when dating as a young person, you should be learning and trying to grow as a person. If you find your long-term partner when you're young, that's awesome, but it isn't typical and should not be the expectation. The measure of a relationship at this point should be what you learned about yourself and what you were looking for in a partner. And a breakup that leaves you on good terms with the other person is wonderful and mature. Just because two people are no longer together doesn't mean they won't always be important to each other, nor does it necessarily mean that the relationship was a failure.
So, how have I been feeling? Honestly, man, not great. I wish I could tell you all I've been feeling all brilliant and confident about myself, and I'm like, yeah, fuck everyone else. I've got 15 million subscribers, and I'm a comedian, and I'm a god.
Tommy, part of what you are going through is an interesting phenomenon where someone achieves something they've always wanted only to be left asking, is this it? What's next?
Most people are actually depressed after they achieve a dream.
Really?
Yeah, because the process is the high, not the trophy. Having the dream is the gift, not the achieving of it.
The track you're hearing now is by an artist you are quite familiar with, C418. Except this track wasn't in Minecraft. It's called Post-Success Depression, and it was released in 2012. I think that's interesting, as it aligns with when Minecraft was released and C418 found himself world famous and making more money than he likely ever imagined.
Wasn't achieving such a big goal supposed to make us happier at the first place? But instead it pushed almost half of us into depression.
The other aspect to this is what I think is an early onset case of quarter-life crisis. When we are in the education phase of life, everything is structured. We are told what to do, but as we get a little bit of adulthood under our belt, we start to question our path. You now have the freedom to choose what you do, but that question is so big that it feels unanswerable. There are too many options. And you, Tommy, in particular, have more freedom to make those choices than most, having already established resources and an audience. And you're experiencing this earlier than most because you started your career so much earlier than the majority of us. But at 20 years old, there's also the factor that there is still so much life to live. Understand that a choice you make today may influence what you are doing later in life, but it doesn't have to set that choice in stone. Just don't do anything too stupid.
I began this year trapped in a persona that was aging further and further away from me. I mean, look at my videos from a year ago. They're great, but this isn't me. I don't want to be a kid's entertainer.
That's an important realization. Thankfully, your audience is maturing with you.
You know, I've found my audience, right? It's this generation. Gen Z, and I love it, man. And I know we're all weird and depressed and anxious and that we're stupid. But I also think we're the most understanding, compassionate, empathetic people that there's been in a while. And I love that, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, you may not like this bit, but Gen Z really isn't empathetic. Empathy means the ability to understand others and to view things from alternative perspectives. The truth is, Gen Z will only accept those that pass certain virtue tests or agree on particular issues. As a collective, Gen Z is as judgmental and reactionary as Christian conservatives of the 90s, but from a different perspective. For one example, both groups want to see Harry Potter eliminated from the marketplace. I'm hopeful that this is something that will temper itself over time, but everyone should ask themselves why a person may think the way they do before they run off calling people fascists or bigots. We truly have more in common than what separates us, and being able to get along with someone you disagree with will only make us more complete and more empathetic humans. As introspective as you appear to be, I think you'll realize this quicker than most.
And it turns out the internet is the most intense, scary thing when you're not ready to handle it.
Yeah, the internet is the meanest school playground the world has ever seen, but most of it is just that. Schoolyard bullies who are just sad people looking for an outlet. Don't take them too seriously.
And I love YouTube, but I hate that the older I'm getting, the more I'm feeling like I just don't belong. Like being a YouTuber is a kid's dream, not an adult's. And I don't know why I spent years listening to all these adults giving me advice who I don't even want to be like now I'm nearly their age. And I don't even agree with what they're doing.
What you may find is that YouTube was your childish dream and you decide to move on to something different in adulthood, but that isn't true for most of us. I'm just getting started and I'm in my 40s, though I'm sure I have different expectations from what you may have had when you started. I'm also not going to model my behavior on the types of creators that you may have. Frankly, I think you were a bit awestruck by their popularity and maybe a little surprised by the fact that you had gotten to the point where you could actually interact with these famous YouTubers. Perhaps it's important to realize that YouTube is a broad ecosystem where a lot of creators produce a wide variety of valuable content, and that the ones who make the headlines may not be the best model for your career.
It all just feels like a waste of time and money and youth, and it just...
Waste of time, money, and youth is just plain not true. Was it a waste of time and money creating a life where you now have the time and money to do whatever you want? Would you trade where you are now with being at uni and working a part-time job just to have some cash? And not knowing what to do when you finish your education? Also, your youth lasts much longer than you realize. If there is something you feel you've missed out on, do it right now. Just go for it, and you have more time than you realize. You'll be shocked what being 40 actually feels like. Here's a tip. It doesn't feel like being old, aside from your body being a little bit slower.
You spend your 20s figuring it out, you spend your 30s doing it, and then you spend your 40s enjoying it. And I'm right on that threshold. I'm 41 now.
Losing the mates, and the breakups, and even being in America for 2 months, it all just made me feel a bit lonely.
Again, this is mostly just regular adult stuff. You have responsibilities now, and maintaining friendships requires more attention.
Like, I must have watched this video 50 times of me going out for my first VidCon panel, thinking, that isn't real. Hello? It's like that didn't happen to me. That's someone else's memory.
Oh, it happened, and thankfully you did preserve that moment. It was a moment in time that I'm sure you will revisit occasionally throughout your life, but it was a turning point. You may someday see it as the end of a phase, even though you didn't know it at the time. Accept it as the triumphant celebration of something you accomplished as you moved on to something different.
I've spent a lot of nights lying in bed being like, what the fuck do I even do? Who am I? What is going on?
I'm just not feeling it right now, at all.
And I know that these are very normal thoughts for a 20-year-old.
I already touched on some of this, but you will figure this out. Don't be afraid to experiment. You have the freedom to try things and see if they feel right. Talk to older friends who you trust. Philza lived a lot of life before that baby zombie made him famous. I think his perspective would be beneficial, and I'm sure Technodad would be a good person to bounce things off of. Your circle of friends is larger than you are giving yourself credit for.
I liked being a kid. I liked it a lot.
This is extremely relatable. A lot of us miss that comfort. It also indicates that you had a good childhood for which you should be thankful. And sadly, childhood passes far more quickly than we realize when we are experiencing it. Think about how far away 20 felt when you were 12, and yet here you are. I hate to say it, but time will only pass more quickly as you get older. It's probably the worst part of adulthood, honestly.
There is one thing worth mentioning, though. You know, they're memories that don't feel like mine. For a moment, they do. They do feel like mine. When it is happening and I'm there, I'm in it, and like that, then, there, that's the happiest and best feeling, man. Just being there. Nothing else on my mind, only what I've got to do right now. And those moments of magic and focus are thankfully getting less and less random in my life. It's either on a stage, or while I'm filming, or, you know, just laughing with a friend, or hanging out with a squirrel, or, you know, when I'm just by myself, listening to music.
Okay, introspection boy, I'm going to throw a curveball and recommend a book to you. The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. What you are describing here is about mindfulness and being present in the moment. Perhaps this book will help you achieve this feeling more often. Frankly, it is something I could focus more on.
And I'm so thankful that I found comedy, because that has really saved me most of this year. Without Steve Martin, Bo Burnham, John Mulaney, Amy Poehler, John Oliver, the whole of the current SNL cast, giving me something to dream about again, and fall in love with, and wake up in the morning for, man, I don't know where the fuck I'd be right now without them. So thank you. Thank you so much.
There is an unfair expectation of young people to know what they'll want to do for their entire adult career before they have the experience to make an intelligent choice. Some folks will fall in love with something at a young age and be committed to it for a lifetime. But many of us become exposed to things that we love when we're already in adulthood. Changing directions can be scary, and it feels like moving across shaky ground because we can't be confident that we'll have success when trying something new. I'm glad you've found something that you're passionate about that will challenge you for a long time. You do have the advantage over other burgeoning comedians in that you can sell a tour already, but to truly be successful in stand-up will be a long process. You've chosen some fine people to take inspiration from, but broaden that scope. I don't know if you live near a comedy club. Frankly, I don't know anything about the English comedy scene, but if you can, spend time around other comics. Do open mics. Become part of the community. It's a strange world, but if you want to be a part of it, you'll need to spend time in it.
It's been a shit one. But I feel like next year might be better, hopefully. Well,
realistically, it probably will be, but let's not put pressure on better year, worse year, whatever. It's all just living. Good experiences, bad experiences, they are all learning experiences. Just live and take it as it comes. If you enjoy what you're seeing, please hit that subscribe button. As a new creator, every little bit of support helps. Thank you.
Tom Simon's things to do for getting better. Nature/walking. It's there. Go and do it.
I fully agree. I would add that many people benefit from spending time in or around water. The beach, a lake, river, or pond. Time spent near water tends to have a calming effect.
FaceTiming. Give someone you love a call. They're always a little bit better than you remember.
FaceTime is great, but let's not forget the importance of real FaceTime. Get lunch or a coffee with a real person. We are social creatures that benefit greatly from in-person human interaction and contact. Get some fresh air and have a laugh. It's good for the soul.
Getting shit out your head. Feeling something? Write it down. Just don't keep it up there. It goes round and round in circles up there, like pee going down a urinal.
This is good advice, but I'm now curious about English urinals because that swirling is not consistent with my experience.
Routine. Just do things at the same time each day or week. Structure makes everything slightly better.
Structure and routine are good, but there does need to be some flexibility. If you need to take a walk or the opportunity to spend time with a friend comes up, don't let your routine be an excuse to miss out on that experience. We have all had the feeling of being stuck in a rut. Be willing to break routine when it will benefit you.
Music. Listen to the right music. By that, I mean listen to how you feel or how you want to feel and let the music match that.
This is probably my number one. Music is magical.
You never know where you are in the story. Hopefully, this bit is nearly done though.
Honestly, don't worry about where you are in the story. This isn't a story. It doesn't have 3 acts. Even the idea of a year is conceptual. This is living. Some things will happen to you and other things will happen because of you. Be present and do the best you can.
Thank you all a lot, because I really appreciate that you've all been so chill about me hiding away for as long as I needed to.
Your audience will be there. Or they won't. As you evolve, you'll lose some people and others will come on board. Just don't be parasocial. Don't tie your self-worth with what your audience thinks of you. Tom, the year is over. Congrats, you made it. Now let's go kick ass in 2025.
But let me say it one more time. Never let them stop your roar.